What's up guys, Andrew Bainey here. It's been a little while since my last FAQ video. In fact, it's been over a month. I apologize for the wait on this one. I know I used to do a lot more of these, but we got a lot to talk about today since it's been a while, so let's get right into it. As always, before we get started with the questions, I want to give a huge shout out to my members on Patreon, whose names are on the screen at this point in time. October was a very weird month for me, which I'll get into in a little bit, so having Patreon support definitely helps a lot with that when the money ad revenue situation on YouTube is not so great. At least I have other sources of revenue to rely on, so I really appreciate those Patreon people whose names are on the screen at this point in time. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon member, you can get audio downloads to all of my videos, you can get audio stems, and you also get Discord access to my server. Speaking of Discord, I also want to give a plug to that. That's a place where you guys can ask me pretty much any question you want, and they'll get featured in videos like this. And I'm also pretty active on that server. That's going to be linked in the description below as well. And before we get into the first question, I just want to say one more thing. It's been a month since my solo EP Bury the Hatchet came out, and I just want to give you guys a huge thank you for the support and the love that I got on that. That was way more than I ever anticipated, and I was actually able to raise over $200 for the BC Crisis Center, which is the charity that I told you guys I was going to be donating all the revenue from the title track to. So I'm happy to say that we raised $200. That will be super helpful for them. You know, even if it pays someone to be on the phone line when someone's in crisis and needs someone to call for like an extra hour or two, who knows, maybe that could change someone's life, maybe it could save a life, I don't know. All I know is I'm happy that I was able to kind of give back to a cause that I believed in and that would not have been possible without your guys' help. So to anyone who streamed the album, watched it on YouTube, bought it on Bandcamp, whatever, your guys' contributions are much appreciated, and they went to a good cause, and I just wanted to let you guys know that. So with all that out of the way, let's get to the first question. The first question comes from Long Dong McCong Schlong on Discord, and he says, what is the biggest show, gig, or tour that your band has ever had to turn down? This is kind of an interesting one because none really pop into my mind. We've kind of had a few potential tour offers for the United States, but we basically don't have the money to do that, because the unfortunate thing about touring the States is there is a very large barrier to entry, aka the border. It costs, I think from my research, it's like $1,500 or something like that just to get across the border. And then obviously in addition to that, we don't have a van, so we would need to like buy a van and so on and so forth. So there was just a lot of upfront costs that we just kind of never really figured out, and that's why we've never done like any tour outside of Canada, which we've only done once 5 years ago. So pretty much anytime we've got a tour offer, we've had to turn it down. So I guess that's like kind of like a general answer to that. None of them really stick out in my head necessarily, but I know Angel Maker wanted to tour with us and we had to say no. That one really sucked because those guys are our homies and we've been playing shows with them since both of us were brand new bands like 8 years ago now. So yeah, I don't know, pretty much any tour outside of Canada that we've had to say no to would be my answer to that. Next question comes from Yournet Runner on Discord, and he says, have you dealt with depression? To some extent, I would always say yes to this question. I don't think that I've ever dealt with chronic depression in the sense that, or clinical depression, I guess is the proper term for it, where you know, you feel depressed like every single day for, you know, a year or your whole life or whatever. Fortunately, that has not been the case for me, but I think that almost every human in the entire world goes through some form of depression at some point in their lives, whether it only lasts like a week or a month or a year, whatever the case may be. So I think I've definitely gone through a few phases in my life where I basically would consider myself to have been depressed for, you know, a certain period of time. There's really two that come to mind. Well, the most recent one was back in like June, July this year, when my friend passed away unexpectedly, and that obviously affected me a lot, which I've talked about in other FAQ videos. And again, that's why I was raising money for the you know, suicide prevention hotline with my EP. So when that whole situation went down, I was very depressed for a while that happened. For the most part, I'm feeling better now. I mean, obviously I still think about it like pretty much every day, because that friend had a pretty big impact on my life, and it's not, I mean, I don't want to not think about him, but I don't know. At this point in time, I'm kind of just like, every time I think about him, it makes me sad, but usually it's because I remember something happy about him, so that's kind of the way that I'm choosing to look at it, at least, which I found helpful. And then there's been a couple other portions of my life, like kind of transitioning out of high school and going into university was absolutely awful for me, because I basically lost all of my friends from high school due to an insane situation that happened that I will probably never talk about publicly. But for like a whole year, probably, I felt like I basically had almost no friends. Like I had 1 or 2 friends, but that's about it. And I did pretty much everything alone, which is, to be fair, how I ended up doing music and doing all the stuff that I'm doing now. So in the end, it ended up kind of working out for the better, but obviously at that time, I did not know that. So it just felt like shit. So yes, I guess I've dealt with depression on some extent, is what I would answer to that question. And with that being said, I also want to mention to you guys, once again, if you guys are ever feeling depressed to the point where you really do feel like you need help, like please reach out to someone, whether it's one of the hotlines that you can call, like the one I donated to, the BC Crisis Center. I think they might be specific to British Columbia, but you know, there's of course the international one as well. You know, if you have any friends or family, like as much as it sucks having depression and you like don't want to talk about it because it feels like nobody will understand you, you know, there are people out there that are willing to help. So please, if you're feeling depressed, reach out to someone and get the help that you need to prevent yourself from making a terrible decision. But on that note, I'm going to move on to the next question before I get too sad about this. Next question comes from Reaper on Discord, and he says, what are the easiest deathcore, downtempo, metalcore, gent songs on a 7-string guitar that you know? Because I'm going to get one very soon. Well, pretty much any song that I write is very easy, so if you want to learn any of my material, you can go check that out. There's a lot of it that's on a 7-string. Again, on my solo EP, there's 2 songs in drop A. One is called Grasping at the Unseen, which is like a little harder, but pretty easy. And then The Gate, which is super easy. So if you want to get tabs to either of those songs, both in drop A on a 7-string, you can get that, which is linked in the description below. As for other bands, there's tons of other bands out there. Like Volume songs are pretty easy and a lot of fun. Whitechapel and Suicide Silence songs are pretty fun and pretty easy. That's how I learned how to play a 7-string, was you know, learning like Unanswered by Suicide Silence and stuff like that. Yeah, and like some Deftones songs are pretty easy, and those also use 7-strings, so maybe stick with those bands like Volumes, Whitechapel, Suicide Silence, Deftones. And if you're feeling generous, go check out my songs too. Next question comes from Not Agufish, and he asks, are FAQs dead? Sad face. So I wanted to address this question because, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I haven't done an FAQ video in over a month, and originally I was doing one every single week. So the unfortunate thing with how YouTube has decided to work lately is if you repeatedly upload videos that do not get views, essentially you're fighting against the algorithm, let's say, every single time. So basically, if I have like one video that kills it at like 10,000 or 20,000 views, and then my next video is like an FAQ video which only gets 2,000, then YouTube basically, from my understanding, gets confused about what's going on with my channel, because I have these like huge fluctuations, like this one did super well, this one did super bad, this one did super well, this one did super bad. So YouTube, from my understanding, kind of decides like, hey, this channel is inconsistent, therefore we're not going to show his videos to people that often. And essentially, as you guys will know if you're subscribed to my channel, my videos probably do not show up in your homepage at all sometimes, and that's because YouTube has basically decided that it's not going to push my videos even if you've already subscribed. So YouTube's doing a bunch of dumb shit basically, to the point where I essentially have no choice but to play by their rules, especially because now, like, you know, my livelihood relies on YouTube to a large extent. So as much as I would love to make an FAQ video every week, by doing that it's actually killing my channel. So FAQs are not dead, they're just going to be way less frequent, which is why I'm probably only going to be doing one a month maybe. Yeah, that's kind of the story with that. I would love to do more because it's fun doing these. They're super easy to do, and I like, you know, interacting with you guys, my followers and my supporters, but I can't afford to kill my channel willingly if I know it's going to mess something up. And that's just the way YouTube is, unfortunately, so here we are. Next question comes from RedX33303 on Instagram, and they say, how did you find Fast Guitars? I might have answered this one before, but I'll go over it super briefly. Basically, Fast Guitars is a local company to me. They're in a city called Delta, British Columbia, which is like 20 minutes from my house. And I got hooked up with Fast Guitars back in like 2015, I think. This is my first one right here. This is my, you know, the one you've probably seen the most. It's my Fast Guitars 8-string Roamer is what they call it. It's obviously based off of a Jazzmaster. And then I have 3 other ones from them. So the way that I actually got started with them is very not as epic as you would think. Basically, they just posted on Facebook saying that they wanted to reach out and try working with new artists, and that was it. And they said, email this email address if you want to work with us. And, you know, I knew they were local to me, so I was like, sure, why not? So I just emailed them and I was like, hey, you know, I'm a guitarist on YouTube. At the time, I had like 40,000 subscribers or something like that. Here's my channel. Here's what I do. I would love to work with you guys. What do you want to do? And then I got an email back from Kevin, who's the owner of Fast, and he just said, like, oh, he really liked my channel, and he invited me to come to the factory to check it out. And then I got to the factory and we ended up talking and we decided to work together, and that's how I kind of started getting Fast Guitars, and I've worked with him for 4 years now. And now I'm actually employed by him through his other company, Precision Guitar Kits, and I do their shipping and customer service emails as kind of like a side gig for when YouTube ad revenue sucks, like this month. Next question comes from Charlie Distorted on Instagram, and he says, what is your opinion on metal elitists / gatekeeping in metal? Well, I mean, the obvious answer is that it sucks. I'm sure that I am guilty of it to some extent, or at least I used to be when I was younger. But in general, it just doesn't really make any sense. Like, we're all listening to metal in one subgenre or another. It's not a popular genre of music. We're all like the weird people that like metal, so you would think that we would all get along. But unfortunately, sometimes that's not the case. And, you know, people who like black metal will look down on you because you listen to gent, and it's like, bro, we both listen to weird music. Like, why does it matter if it's not the exact same shit? It's no big deal. Like, I personally don't like black metal or like power metal, for example, but if someone suggests a band in that genre to me, I'll still check it out. Like, I can't promise I'm gonna like it, but I'll give it a try, because, like, why not? But yeah, I mean, you guys have all experienced this if you listen to metal at all, or read any YouTube comments. Like, I get every single day some fucking old guitar boomer, you know, commenting about how gent fucking sucks and how I'm an idiot for liking it, and it's just like, okay, like, what do you want me to do here? Like, am I just gonna delete my whole channel just to make you happy? Like, obviously not, so, like, what the fuck's your point? But with that being said, my absolute favorite thing in the world to do is when my band Galactic Pegasus plays festivals. It is the funniest thing ever, because it's like a big ass poster with all these like death metal and power metal bands, and then in the middle of that it says fucking Galactic Pegasus, and everyone who goes to the festival who doesn't know who we are is usually like, what the fuck is Galactic Pegasus? And they think it's gonna be like some super lame thing, which, to be fair, maybe we are, I don't know. But it's happened quite often where, you know, after we finish our set, we have a bunch of people from the festival come up to us and they're like, hey man, like, we came to watch you guys because we thought you were going to be like kind of a meme because of your name, but you guys are actually sick. And that is awesome. Also, when we play metal festivals, we make it a point to look the least metal possible out of everyone there, because it's just like a sea of like 1,000 people all wearing black with like, you know, death metal logo fonts. And, you know, me and my band like to walk around wearing like bright ass shirts or white or whatever and throw people off. It's a good time. We definitely, you know, for better or for worse, turn some heads. Definitely some people do not think it's very funny, but I have a good time with it. Next question comes from Quansto622, and they ask, did you happen to listen to Invent Animate's new song? If so, how did you feel about it, and would you potentially get their album? And also, what band do you think has been killing it this year? Yes, I have heard Invent Animate's new song, and I thought it was really, really good. I will definitely be checking out their album because I've already liked that band for a really long time, since their first album. So obviously I'm excited to hear some new music from them. It does kind of make me sad because, again, my friend who passed away had like a bunch of their artwork tattooed on him, so I can't help but think of that whenever I listen to them now. which sucks, but I'm trying not to let that like ruin the band for me. And also Johnny did like a vocal audition for Invent Animate that was awesome, but they didn't end up going with him, which is too bad. However, their new vocalist that they did pick is really good, so I'm excited to hear their new music. And as for what bands I think have been killing it this year, I mean, there's a lot, but the one that comes to my head is still, actually there's two that come to mind. Number one is Loathe, because I'm still just as obsessed with them now as I was a year ago when I found them, and also Dealer. Their EP, in my opinion, is still my album of the year, even though it came out back in April. That is by far the thing I've listened to the most this year, and that's only their first EP ever, so I'm really excited to hear what they do next. Next question comes from Vince Briglia Music, and he says, do you like jazz? No, I don't. Next question comes from Modern Mitch Lucker. Thoughts on MCR reunion? I was never like a huge MCR fan other than the singles that everybody in the world likes, like, you know, Welcome to the Black Parade, Teenagers. I really liked Dead. Basically that album I really liked, and the one before, but I never listened to their like newest album, like Danger Days or whatever. I didn't really like that one. And then their older album was just like too old, and I just never heard it because I was like, I don't know, I think I was like 13 when Welcome to the Black Parade came out. So I listened to that album a lot. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it's cool that they're back. I don't know how much I care. Like, I definitely don't really care to see them in concert necessarily. Like, especially if it's going to be like hundreds of dollars, then I'm definitely not going. But, I mean, it would be cool to see, but it's not like top of my priority list. And I mean, yeah, if they release a new song or whatever, like, I'll obviously check it out, but I mean, I don't know, it's cool that they're back, but I kind of like had my MCR phase back then, and I've never been like super obsessed with them. Next question comes from Lucas Shaw. What's your opinion on MIDI guitars like the Odin 2? Do you feel negatively about people who fake it? I definitely don't feel negatively about people who fake it, because I definitely use the Odin, not that often, but I've used it in a few YouTube videos, and you know what? Honestly, nobody can even tell when I use it. I've used it on a few videos and just like not said anything, and nobody noticed. And I know of a bunch of other YouTubers who I cannot name for obvious reasons that 100% program everything they do, and they just don't say anything, and nobody notices because it sounds that close to a real guitar. So a lot of people out there are letting your eyes fool your ears, and it's kind of funny to me. So I don't think it's a problem. It's 2019, this was bound to happen eventually, you know, embrace the future or die. Next question comes from Lich Krieg, I think that's how you say that. What are you currently using for guitar and bass tone? What are you using for drums? How many fingers can you put in your bum? How many fingers am I holding up my bum? So what am I using for guitars? First of all, I am mostly using the Fortin Nameless plugin for my guitar tones, at least for rhythm tones, and then for lead tones, I'm using the Neural DSP Archetype Nolly plugin. Those are pretty much my go-to nowadays. As for bass tone, my go-to plugin has been the Neural DSP Parallax. Pretty much everything I do is made by Neural DSP at this point in time. Like, I know I have the Kemper and like everything else that I have, but honestly 99.9% of the time this is just here for show. It's on because it looks cool, but I'm not actually using it at all. I'm just recording a DI and then reamping it with the plugins because it sounds just as good, if not better. So that's what I'm using. As for the bum question, I don't know, man. Just take your fingers out of your bum and move on with your day, please. Next question comes from Black Sheep on YouTube, and he asks, could you do a video of your riff writing process? I have thought about this before because there are tons of people that always want to know like songwriting tips, but unfortunately for some reason on my channel, tutorials just always completely bomb. As useful as I think they are, and I get lots of requests for them, and then if I actually do one, nobody really seems to watch it, so I don't really have a desire to make a full video about it, unfortunately, so sorry. But really all I do, I mean, I've always explained my riff writing process is easy as possible. Basically, it's whatever band I'm listening to at the time the most. I essentially try and copy them and then mix it with another band. So essentially, like, let's say right now I'm obsessed with like Dealer and I don't know, Northlane or something. So basically what I'll do is I'll listen to both of those bands and I'll do like a bunch of covers or at least learn guitarists from both bands. And then I kind of use what I learned to be like, okay, well, it sounds like Dealer would do something like this, and then Northland would do something like this, and if I put those together, it sounds like this. And that's pretty much all I do for my riff writing process, is I just kind of imagine, I really like this band and this band, what would they sound like together? And that's really all I do. Next question comes from Not Agufish again, and he asks, what's it like being TikTok famous now? Okay, I have a story for you guys, which is, in my opinion, hilarious. So you guys might have noticed that like every metal YouTube guitarist now has a TikTok. And if you don't know what TikTok is, it's basically the most popular social media app that like people under, I don't know, 20, let's say, are using. But anyways, yeah, so I made this TikTok page because I was like, fuck it, why not? What's the worst that can happen? All I'm doing is basically reposting my YouTube content on there anyways, so I got nothing to lose. And sure enough, I posted a video that completely bombed on YouTube. It only got like 2,000 views on YouTube. And I posted it on TikTok just to be like, fuck it, you know, let's see what happens. And it got 1.2 million views on TikTok. And from that, I gained like 3,000 subscribers on YouTube in like 2 days. So TikTok is pretty fucking awesome, if I must say so myself. I had no idea what I was in for. I was not expecting that. And yeah, some of my videos are doing super well on there, and they're actually translating over to my Instagram and to YouTube. And in 1 month, my TikTok is now my second most popular social media app other than YouTube. So basically it's like YouTube's at 120K or whatever, and then TikTok's at like 47K, which is insane. And then my next one is like Instagram, which is like 23K. So in 1 month, it's like double what my Instagram is. And I'm pretty sure I've been working on my Instagram for like 4 or 5 years, if not more. So yes, TikTok is the future of social media. And if you're in a band or you're any type of content creator and you're not on there, you are fucking up. Get on there while it's still relatively new, and get on there as soon as possible. Seriously, do it right now. And also go follow me at @BandAgalactic. All right, next up is from Samuelai Buska, and he asked, what Pics are you using? So I had this from a few people. So lately all I've been using is these boys right here. Let's see if it'll focus. There we go. So that's the Ernie Ball Prodigy 2mm pick. I've started using these ever since I got endorsed by Ernie Ball. I tried the 1mm or the 1.5mm and the 2mm, and I personally like the thicker one a little bit better. And yeah, that's what I've been using. They last to like a decent, I wish they lasted a little bit longer, but when they're fresh, they sound awesome, and I've really been enjoying using them. All right, guys, that was it for this week's FAQ. This was a long one. Thank you guys for sticking with me. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below, or go join my Discord server and go ask them in the FAQ submissions channel. Like I said earlier, unfortunately, I'm not doing FAQs as often as I used to, but I'll probably do another one next month. Hopefully you guys liked this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to reading your comments and questions as always. And that's all I gotta say. Goodbye.